Hello, this is Mark here at Gary's Guitars in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I'd like you to say hello to my little friend. This is the K Model 703. This is part of the series I've begun about little lamps, just talking about just little lamps. And so we get a lot of great little lamps that come through the store, and so I thought it'd be cool to talk about some of them as they come through, and this just happens to be here. If you notice, I'm wearing the same shirt as in the last video because I'm filming these back to back. I should have brought a costume change. I guess I'm not that theatrical. So, anyways, it's a new video. We're talking about the K Model 703. So part one was the Fender Champ. This is everything that the Champ isn't, or the Champ is everything that this isn't. Let me say, the Champ is a power supply, a power transformer. It has its output transformer, a nice, big, pretty beefy for what it is. Output transformer. It's designed like a Fender. It's what they thought at the time was over-engineered, but engineered well by today's standards. It has a grounded 3-prong cable on it, whereas this does not. So people joke that this is the Widowmaker because it's pretty easy to get a shock off this amp if you don't know what you're doing, or even if you know what you're doing. But so let's talk about that and what causes that, and some safety things we can do to not get a jolt. So K Model 703, and I think there's a couple other similar looking Ks. They were probably made by Valvo. Valco. Valvo is a tube manufacturer in Europe. Valco is the amp manufacturer, and I spit out the wrong one sometimes. Or one of those other makers that, third party. K didn't actually make this amp. Although it says K Musical Instruments on it. Maybe they did make it because it's so poorly made. It could only be K. Why do I say it's poorly made? Because they did this thing. It's a cost-saving measure. It was really common back then, especially in home radios. You would have, rather than a power transformer, you would have your tubes all kind of just connected in series, and as long as you have your tubes added up to 110 volts, at the time it was 110, 120 here, sorry. As long as their power usage kind of just, so they're in series like Christmas tree lights, rather than having their own fresh supply of voltage. So as long as it all ran off the wall voltage, they could eliminate the power transformer and make it a little cheaper. And it's really common in radios, but what they didn't think about is you don't plug yourself into a radio. So that introduced shocking hazards if the polarity wasn't right. And some people are very, it has what we call a non-polar cable. If you have any questions about that, I made a whole video about non-polar cables, but don't go there yet. Watch the rest of this for now. So we have 2 prongs, not 3, and the prongs can be plugged in either direction into a plug. The idea of that is if the polarity was wrong, you would flip it over, and so you can probably like listen for a hum or something, and just flip it over and you're like, okay, now the polarity is correct. Another way to know if your polarity is wrong is touch something else that's plugged into another plug, and you will know it. 120 volts in the United States. So not enough to kill you, but because AC, but enough to jolt you, and I guess no joke. So be careful with that. So what we do with these amps is we put a polarized plug on the end, so that it can. We find out the safest polarity for it, and we put that plug in. And we plug it in, and people are like, well, why don't you put a ground on it? Well, there really is nothing to ground to because the chassis is the audio ground. So if we ground the chassis, we're grounding the audio ground to the earth ground, which later gets combined because the cold side also goes to earth ground. Still not a good idea. So, no matter what you do, these are just a touch on the dangerous side. And then also very low wattage. It says 33 watts, but that's its power consumption, not its audio power. And basically a watt or two So you have a tone control with the volume on it. So essentially with these amps, you turn the volume all the way up and the tone all the way up, and you play into it, and the thing just goes wah! And that's a good sound. You get you get very interesting tone because these are designed so differently than other amps. That's kind of what people go for. And the look, this thing looks beautiful. Oh boy, it is. It's a thing of beauty. Look at this. Fake brass plating on the handle. The brown speaker cover. The speaker does, oddly enough, there is some design to this. The speaker does kick back a little bit, so that the top of this is further back than the top of this. So someone read a book before they made this. So at the time it was made, it was probably considered safe enough. But definitely something is not necessarily a widowmaker, but it's definitely something to consider, is making sure your polarity is correct. And also what I recommend with these is using a matching transformer, a 1-to-1 transformer, but just so that you have a transformer between you and the wall. So some people think some people use a variac, but the variac is a variable transformer, not a matching transformer, and therefore does not isolate as well as a matching transformer. So if you were to plug this into a 1-to-1 ratio matching transformer, 120 volts at a bunch, this claims to be 33 watts, but 0.275 amps. But, get one with a lot of handling. And that's the absolute safest way to use these. So, it's a kind of buyer beware situation. Buyer be careful. And what we do tell people when they buy an amp like this, those complications of, like, this is a used piece. This is a museum piece. This is not to be brought on the gig. This is to be at home on a shelf and to look beautiful and to sound beautiful once in a while. Tubes are hard to find because they were weird. I think it has a 35 volt power tube, and then I don't remember the tubes, but they usually have really weird tubes that you can find in old radios. So there's people maybe out there selling them on the secondary market, but definitely things that are not being made today. I love everything made by Kay, however, and this amp is definitely a great little amp. Very distinct sound. It's a thin but present sound, and you turn it up and you get wonderful distortion. Okay, so thanks for visiting with me and the K. Like I said, there's another video about polarity. If you want to know more about that, you can search for that. Just go to our videos and just look through. That would be in the Tube Talk series when we're talking about tube amps in general. But also we have a live series of a question and answer things. We have, at this time in the year 2020, about 70 or 80 more informational videos. Check those out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.